Emily, and I support the Independent Garden Centres team with some of their marketing and creative services. Today we're going to expand on email marketing and have a little chat about some key email best practices. So first up, it's not a super fun topic, but it is extremely important when it comes to email marketing, and that is the Spam Act. Above all else, we do not wish to spam our customers either legally or morally. From a legal standpoint, rules do differ by state, and not being a lawyer myself, I would encourage you to do your own research and check the specifics for the state that you are operating in. But in a general summary, there are 3 primary elements to the Spam Act that your business must adhere to. The first is consent. Your customers must have signed up to receive communications via email from your business, and it has to have been really clear at the time that they were doing so that they were signing up for marketing communications. This part is extremely important. The customer must be aware of what they're signing up for and that they are effectively opting in to sales communications from you. As a common example, let's say a customer came in and gave you their email because they wanted you to contact them when a particular item returns to stock. Unless they also expressly opted in to receive marketing communications from you as well at this time, they do not belong on your mailing list. Only those who have actively chosen to join that marketing mailing list should receive those types of communications. Now that might sound a little bit scary, but for most people this really is as simple as making sure that you have a little checkbox on your sign up form, either digitally or on your paper form, that basically just says, when the customer ticks the box, I would like to receive email marketing communications. The second is identification. On any email you send out, you must clearly identify who you are. This is of course done within the sender name, but it should also be included as a footer in every email that you send out. Rules do differ, but generally you should be including your business name, full physical address, 1 or more forms of contact, a link to your website where applicable, and in certain cases you may even be required to show your ABN. This is all done to demonstrate that you are who you say you are, and it makes it even more difficult for another business to potentially masquerade as you online. The third is that at all times our customers must be free and able to opt out or unsubscribe from receiving further communications from our business. This is present as an unsubscribe link at the bottom of your emails, which will take your customers to a place where they can automatically remove themselves from your list. The really good news is that using a third-party platform, such as something like MailChimp, identification and opt-out are going to be handled for you, and you're probably never going to have to think about them again, which just leaves you to handle the consent side of things at the time of sign up. Then from a moral standpoint, even if we have permission to be emailing our customers, we don't want to be upsetting anybody by sending out emails too often or sending emails that maybe they're just not all that interested in. When it comes to how many emails we should be sending, a better question to have a think about might be, what do I have to say that is going to be genuinely interesting to my customers? Depending what's going on in your business, you might have more to say in one month than another, and that's okay. I'd always rather you send out an email that adds value than just one because you had a target to get something out that week. Of course, it is always a good idea to be touching base with your customers on a semi-regular basis, let's say once a fortnight. However, depending on other activities you are already doing or channels you might already be reaching your customers through, this may be too little or it might be too much. This is really going to vary by business, and you'll need to have a think about what's right for you and for your customers. But I'd say that most business owners can think of at least 1 or 2 things in a month that might interest their customers, such as new stock coming in or some really awesome deals that you might be running, both of which make excellent emails. However, in terms of keeping your customers interested, don't forget to look for other ways your emails might add value to their day, such as education or tips and tricks. Keep in mind that when we reach out to our customers, it shouldn't always be with a purely sales focus. When you think about the emails that you probably opened from other companies, it's likely the ones that you reckon give you a bit of value in return. If you want the sales email to have an impact when you need it to, then you need to be giving your audience a reason to stay engaged along the way. Now, the best way to cut through the noise of the inbox and make sure your customer is getting the emails that they are most interested in involves segmenting your database and getting really targeted with what your customers specifically like based on their interest and or purchase history with you. However, this starts with the type of data that you're collecting from your customers and is a huge topic in itself, so perhaps one for another day. The next thing to think about in terms of best practices is our email design. What might we be doing in our email design that could potentially be impacting our send rates? First up, subject line. Conveying value starts with the subject line, which is where in a concise way, say 50 characters or less, and that does include spaces, you should be trying to pique your customer's interest. However, what we need to avoid when coming up with our clever subject lines is accidentally using any trigger words, because these can send our emails straight into the junk or spam boxes. Certain words, some of which seem totally harmless and might surprise you, like buy now or order now, can actually trigger email provider security settings, and that means that your customer's never going to get to see your email. A great resource for this is HubSpot's list of spam words, which you can scan the QR code here to have a look at. Other things to note are general email etiquette, such as not to use all caps or to get too heavy-handed with your exclamation marks. If you have the functionality to merge your customer's first name into the subject line, this has been shown to improve open rates when used sparingly. Also, if you feel it's right for your audience, data does also suggest that there can be a slight lift to open rates when we use emojis in our subject line. However, it's not significant, at about an average of 3%. So don't stress if this isn't your thing or if you feel it's not right for your audience. Within subject lines too, you may not be aware that you have an option to add what's called a pre-header. This is a third line of text that shows up in the customer's preview of your email. If you don't add anything, it will pull from the first line of text within that email, which can often be something like, can't see this email correctly? Click here. Instead of wasting this space with something like that, you can utilize this small piece of additional digital real estate to add another line to capture your customer's attention and further encourage them to click on your email. Next up, image best practices. The best image types for use in emails are JPEG, PNG, and GIF. Emails generally operate in 600 pixels wide, then the down can vary depending on how long your email is. From an image standpoint, this means that we don't want to be working with images that are much wider than, say, 640, 650 pixels, just to allow us a little bit of buffer. Although the height of the image can vary, one single image should be no more than 800 pixels, as we know some email providers will cut off an image if it goes too long. But the biggest thing to think about with images is the file size. If the overall size of our images gets too big, this looks really suspicious to email provider security settings and you'll go straight to the junk box. So be sure to check the file sizes of the images you are using, and if they're quite big, it might be worth resizing or compressing them. With all of your images combined, your email ideally should sit under 2 megabytes. There are some great resources that can help you out with this, including Image Resize, Tiny PNG, and Tiny JPEG. So as an example, this is one of the social media tiles that we have. Looking at the file, I can see it's about 5 megabytes and over 3,000 pixels in both width and height. That's way too big for an email. But if I head to Image Resize, upload the image, I can then adjust the settings here to shrink it down and hit export. So now this image is 640 pixels by 640 pixels, it's a JPEG, and it's dropped down to 1,000 kilobytes. So good to go for an email. One last thing to think about with images in email is to make sure we add alt text. This is the text which appears in the email wherein your image, for any reason, does not display. This is because many email clients block images by default. So when someone opens your email, the images aren't going to automatically load unless they click a button or actively change their default settings. Adding alt text to your images helps recipients understand your message even if they can't see the imagery. This is especially important if you use an image as a call to action. So as an example, as the button. Adding a little alt text behind these images will ensure that the customer still understands where you want them to click, even if something goes wrong with your imagery. Whilst I'm sure you guys are all taking your own amazing photos, if you're in need of some free stock imagery, a great place to go is pixels.com. These images are free to use even for commercial purposes, and they have a pretty decent library. Or if you've got a bit more of a design inclination, you can also use canva.com. A lot of their stock imagery and templates are free to use, so you can sign up and pay for additional resources should you wish. So that's a few things to have a think about when you begin your email marketing journey, and hopefully a few tips and tricks that will help you get started. We've also put together a short document with some email inspiration, some ideas of what you could be sending right now. If you'd like to download that, make sure to scan the QR code. So that's it for today. We hope it has been helpful. Any questions or assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Until then, see you next time.